Hello, everyone. Today I've got a story for you. A story that will touch your heart and maybe, just maybe, open your eyes. It's about a man who always needed to be right, no matter what. But by the end of his journey, he discovered something far more powerful. That being wise is much greater than being right. So, stay with me until the end, because this story might just change the way you look at arguments, mistakes, and even your own pride. There was once a man named Henry who lived in a peaceful little village nestled near rolling hills. The air there was always fresh. The sound of birds filled the mornings, and people knew each other by name. Henry was known as one of the smartest men in the village. He read countless books. He could fix almost anything, and he always spoke with unshakable confidence. But there was something about Henry that people quietly noticed. He had an unrelenting need to always be right. If someone said, "The market is open until noon," Henry would immediately correct them. "No, it closes at precisely 11:45. If someone gave a piece of advice, Henry would interject, "That's not the best way. Let me explain the right method." He didn't mean any harm. He genuinely believed that the truth must always be spoken immediately, directly, and completely. But he never realized that truth, when delivered without kindness, can sound an awful lot like pride. One sunny afternoon, Henry was sitting outside the village tea shop with his good friend, David. They were talking about farming, a subject Henry had read about extensively in his books but had never actually practiced himself. David mentioned, "I think this new fertilizer works much better." Henry just smiled and replied, No, that one actually destroys the soil in the long run. The old one is better. You just don't understand the chemistry." David let out a soft laugh. "Maybe you're right," he said, gently ending the conversation. But that night, he told his wife, "I love Henry, but sometimes I just wish he would listen." And slowly, little by little, people began to avoid deep conversations with him. Not because Henry was a bad person, but because he made every single talk feel like a test you could fail. A few days later, Henry was walking to the market. He saw an old man with wispy gray hair carrying a big, overflowing basket of mangoes. The basket looked incredibly heavy, almost too heavy for his frail arms. As the old man crossed the street, he tripped on a small, loose stone. The basket tumbled from his hands, and mangoes rolled in every direction, some into the mud, others onto the dusty road. Henry rushed to help him. "Be careful, sir," he sighed loudly, a hint of admonishment in his voice. As he picked up the fruits, he added, "You shouldn't carry so many things at once. That's dangerous." The old man smiled kindly, his eyes crinkling at the corners. "Thank you, my son," he said. "These are for my grandchildren. I wanted to surprise them." Henry frowned. "Still, that was careless. You should have planned better. You could have dropped them all." The old man didn't reply. He just smiled that gentle smile again, his eyes radiating a soft, forgiving light, and said quietly, "Maybe you're right." Henry felt a surge of pride. He believed he had taught the old man a valuable lesson. But as he walked away, something felt strange inside him. That smile, so calm and forgiving, stayed in his mind like a quiet echo he couldn't shake. A week later, a heavy rainstorm descended upon the village. The sky turned a dark, angry gray. The roads turned to rivers of mud, and everyone stayed indoors. In the evening, through the thick mist and the rumbling sound of thunder, Henry saw smoke rising from the other side of the village, near the river. He ran through the relentless rain, and his heart sank. It was the old man's house, half covered in floodwater and engulfed in flames. Without a second thought, Henry started shouting for help. He and a few neighbors grabbed a bucket, frantically pulling water from the swelling river, trying desperately to save what they could. The fire burned for almost an hour before it finally died down, leaving the roof half gone and the walls blackened with smoke. The old man sat quietly near the doorway, his clothes soaked through, his face etched with fatigue, but his expression was strangely peaceful. Henry placed a warm blanket over his shoulders and said, "I told you before, living so close to the river is dangerous. Look what happened now." The old man turned to him, his eyes just as calm as they were a week ago, and said, "My son, sometimes people don't need to hear that they were wrong. They just need to feel that someone cares." Henry froze. The rain kept falling, but in that moment, his heart went completely still. The old man's words were simple, yet they hit him with the force of thunder. He suddenly understood. He had spent his whole life winning arguments, but losing connections. He was always right, but he was often alone in his correctness. He finally saw that the old man wasn't weak for not arguing back. He was wise. He chose connection over correction. He chose empathy over ego. From that day on, Henry changed. He still read his books and shared his knowledge, but he learned to listen first. He learned that sometimes the most helpful thing you can say is nothing at all. He learned that offering a hand is more powerful than offering an opinion. He learned that being kind is always more important than being right. The villagers noticed the change. Conversations with Henry no longer felt like a test, but like a warm, shared experience. He became not just the smartest man in the village, but the wisest. So, the next time you find yourself in an argument, ready to prove a point, take a moment to think of Henry and the old man. Ask yourself, is it more important to be right or to be kind? Is it more important to win the argument or to preserve the relationship? The answer might surprise you. True wisdom isn't about knowing all the answers. It's about knowing when the answer doesn't matter. Thank you so much for watching. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe for more content that makes you think and feel. I'll see you in the next one.